This stuff lights your fireman, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
Hey, hopefully one of these plus 60-yard field goals that now seems to be almost routine in the NFL has helped you advance in your fantasy football playoffs. And for the majority of you that have advanced, that probably means you're playing in your league's Super Bowl in Week 16, so congrats. Now, if you haven't advanced, don't have a bird and listen up, because you can still play fantasy football this week by playing daily fantasy football. This segment is sponsored by Star Fantasy Leagues. You can find them at starfantasyleagues.com, and if you open up a new account by entering the promo code RADIO, that's RADIO, they'll match your initial deposit up to $500, which means $1,000 in your account if you want it. So go ahead and give them a shot and test your skill against others. Daily Fantasy has become all the rage. Just click on the Daily Fantasy tab on rotoexperts.com and you'll find all kinds of useful, helpful information to help you navigate your way through daily fantasy gaming. Now, if you don't think the waiver wire can radically impact your fantasy football playoffs, all you have to do is look at last week's action to find plenty of fantasy leaders who were widely available on last week's waiver wire. Matt Asiata scored a league-high 3 touchdowns last week. Ryan Tannehill had another solid game at quarterback, and Julian Edelman was once again a PPR stud, even if it all did come in the fourth quarter. Now, if you're still playing this week, it's critical that you know who's available on your league's waiver wire, both to improve your team and to try to make sure your opponent doesn't get a key piece to the puzzle he needs to get a big win. Now, for those of you in your fantasy playoffs, let's get right to it with 3 guys I think can be helpful on your rosters this week in Week 16. I love Michael Crabtree this week. Crabtree has proven he's healthy and he's getting into better game shape every week, and his limited action on the season gives him a leg up on everyone else who's fatigued. Now, last week he posted 5 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown, and I'm looking for Crabtree to torch the Falcons secondary this week as he rounds into form for the 49ers playoff run. Kendall Wright was targeted more than any other NFL receiver last week, drawing 20 throws from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, Wright had 12 receptions for 150 yards last week, which was good enough for 4th best in the league. Wright faces the Jaguars for the second time this season, and in Week 10 he had 7 receptions for 78 yards. He doesn't find the end zone much, but he's a great option in PPR leagues or for use as a flex play. Hey, what's not to like about Kirk Cousins? Forget the fact that he had 2 interceptions last week. If you throw the ball 45 times, those things are bound to happen. He still put up 381 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cousins connected with 9 different receivers last week, and in my eyes, he's a fantastic option if you're looking for a quarterback boost. He gets another great matchup this week facing the putrid Dallas defense, who arguably has been the worst defense in the NFL the last few weeks, and they've allowed more points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks than any other team. Even a noodle-armed Matt Flynn lit him up last week for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Weather permitting, Cousins has a matchup that may win you a fantasy football Super Bowl. In fact, I'm going to use him on my roster. Today's Twitter question comes from @4040, who wants to know what defense I like the best in Week 16. All right, well, I'm going to give you 2, and they play each other. The Browns play the Jets this week at MetLife Stadium. These 2 teams are out of it, and the place is going to be empty. There's going to be nobody there. It's hard to believe that they're going to play Super Bowl at this venue in a few weeks, and I think this is going to be one of the most ugly offensive games of the season. Just think back to last season when the Jets beat the Cardinals 7-6 in December, and how hard that game was to watch. I think you're going to see more of the same this week. So pick either one of these 2 defenses here, and I think you'll do well with them and their special teams. Now, if you got to pick one rather than flip a coin, choose the Browns defense because the Browns don't have to cover Josh Gordon. Now, if you have a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet, and if I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune into the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition, and on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football as I team up with the King, Scott Engel, covering the week that was and the week that will be, answering your viewer questions. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano.